Thank you both for appearing, and thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to ask questions. And thank you to the IPA for the wonderful work you do. I always have thought that the best arbiter of truth and the best arbiter of harm is free and open debate. Do you have any views?
Thanks, Senator. Yep, I would share that perspective. I'm also happy to tell you that Australians broadly share that perspective as well. I might just draw your attention to some polling that we recently did that I'm happy to provide to the committee. I can't remember if it was in our submission, but I'm happy to provide it. So basically what we asked in this question was, some people are concerned about the spread of information. Do you believe the best solution to countering misinformation is? Then we had a number of options: government censorship, more debate to counter false information, censorship by social media companies, more freedom of speech, or none of the above. Now, 49% said either more debate or more freedom of speech. Only 39% said government censorship or censorship by social media companies. So there's a decent size of Australians that believe that, well, we're going to have misinformation, there'll be false content online, but the best way to do that is to have more debate and more speech to counter that. The best fact checkers are the Australian people, not a government bureaucracy. The other point, Senator, that I think you'll find particularly interesting is that young Australians are the most strongly in favour of freedom of speech, and they thoroughly reject censorship. Only 8% of those aged 18 to 24 said they want government censorship to stop misinformation. Only 8%, and only 17% said they want to have censorship by social media companies. 59% said they want more debate and more freedom of speech. So that's the highest out of any age category. So there's a lot of, I guess, concerns about the next generation coming through. We hear a lot about them, but the reality is that they are thoroughly opposed to this censorship regime that's being put before them.
Sorry, could I just... sorry, Senator Roberts, could I just get clarification? Mr Wild, where's that polling from?
So that was undertaken by marketing research firm Dynata, undertaken over 17th of May to 19th of May 2024 of 1,017 Australians.
And was it commissioned by IPA?
It was commissioned by the IPA.
Okay,
yep.
All right. Could we have that on notice?
Yep.
Including the questions?
Yep, I think it's with you now.
Great,
yep.
Thank you.
But maybe thank you. I'll just make a comment before I go into the next question to the IPA, and that is that open debate also develops responsibility amongst those who speak and those who challenge what is said. So I think that's fundamental, because that responsibility is critical to a free and open society and a progressive society, by the real meaning of the word progressive. In your submission, you state the revisions made to the bill between the exposure draft and this draft have potentially broadened censorship concerns. That's a fair representation. Is that a fair representation before I move on to specifics?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Senator? Sorry.
In your submission, you state the revisions made to the bill between the exposure draft and this draft have potentially broadened censorship concerns. Is that fairly representative of what you said?
Yeah, that's right. We were concerned about the definition of serious harm that had been amended from the exposure draft released last year. And one of the categories that stood out to us was the serious harm that was listed changing from hatred against a group to vilification. And the IPA has a body of research which has explained that vilification as a concept is fundamentally vague and subjective. And it seems like, looking across most definitions, that the meaning of vilify, for instance, is broader than the meaning of hatred or hateful. So, so that was an example that we highlighted in our submission. But I think that was probably the main example in our submission on the serious harms point.
Okay, I'll move on to my next question. Thank you for that. The definition of misinformation as content that is verifiable as false, misleading or deceptive will empower politically and ideologically biased fact-checkers to decide which opinions are allowed on social media. My belief is the bill will force social media companies to pay good money to fact-checkers whose funding is not transparent, and in your submission you found that, quote, previous research by the IPA into Australia's three largest third-party fact-checking organisations, AAP Fact Check, RMIT Fact Lab, RMIT ABC Fact Check, found that these entities exercise consistent bias in how they deal with political matters relating to major public policy debates. Does this bill now put truth in the hands of liars?
Well, what it certainly does do, Senator, is it empowers the fact checkers. So I think I mentioned before the research we did that found that 91% of fact-checking claims made by those three organisations that you mentioned targeted the no case during the referendum.
Yep.
It does empower those fact-checkers under clauses 33 and 34. I am aware that there are financial arrangements between the social media companies and fact-checking organisations. I don't know the details of that, but clearly they're going to be looking for business. So, as we mentioned in our submission, that's an area of deep concern, that basically you've got the government outsourcing censorship to social media companies who will then probably outsource it to fact-checking organisations who have been proven and demonstrated to be politically biased.
And I think, Senator, in my view, the true dishonesty is in these fact-checkers holding themselves out as being adjudicators, that they have some sort of special command of the truth. In a healthy and free society, open debate means participants in the debate putting forward their arguments in order to see who's the most persuasive. The fact checker comes in and holds themselves out as the arbiter to decide which side is correct, but they're actually participants in the debate too. That's the reality, and as our research shows, and across a variety of a range of public policy areas, they exercise this immense bias and favouritism towards particular policy perspectives. That's the reality of them. It's a fundamentally dishonest arrangement.
Senator Roberts, I'm afraid we're going to have to move on. We really have